Hello, my name is Chris Muller. I'm going to give a video overview of the Maui user interface framework. Maui is a naked objects user interface framework. In a naked objects framework, there are just, or at least in this one, there are just two widgets. There's an object widget and a message widget. After loading Maui into the Squeak 4.3 Smalltalk environment, you can then send the message Maui to any object. So we will send it to the color blue. And we get a basic rectangle that represents that object. One of the things that every object widget can do is present a context menu for a user. So by doing that, to do that, you just right click on the object. And by default, there are all of these options that are above this line. This engraved line here are available to every object. You can grab, remove, and the letters in parentheses represent the hotkeys, which could activate that function without having to invoke the menu. I will be doing that sometimes throughout the video. Also, they present help balloons. The options which are below the line are other views of this object. Right now we're looking at the standard panel view, which is a built-in view. There are two kinds of views. Built-in views, which are methods that create a Maui, construct a Maui view with a combination of the object and message widgets. The other kind of view is one that was just a prototypical copy of a view that was constructed manually by an end user. So there are 5 views that are built in, like a horizontal icon, which might be useful from a pick list or something. Vertical icon. Small, which is just the color. And a transform view, which presents a menu for adjusting the color or getting new colors. So what we see here are message widgets. These are messages that are implemented on the color class. The little balloon help of this message that's highlighted says adjust the relative saturation and brightness of this color. And if we press the M key to browse implementers of this message, we are immediately brought to the script for this message, and we see that the comment, the balloon help, was taken from the comment. So one of the goals of Maui is to bring usability to some of the components of a Smalltalk program. So these messages these message widgets have been customized within this particular view of this blue object. Now, another thing to notice is when the object is highlighted, every instance of that object also on the screen will be highlighted. So if I get a word view of this, I now have 3 instances of the color blue on the screen. Highlighting over any one of them highlights all of the others. And if connectors packages installed, a line will be drawn to them as well. So I mentioned that there are multiple views. To bring up, to define your own views, we can bring up a class browser. Now to do this, I just pressed C. There are 2 tiers of menus for every object. There's the context menu, which we've already seen. So it can be invoked by pressing escape or by right-clicking. But within that menu is another menu called Tools. And this menu is for bringing up various tools to design views. So this is a designer's menu where the regular menu is just the user menu for using the domain. But this menu is for working on the domain or the user interface, the naked objects user interface for that domain. So here we can see under the behavior that open class hierarchy is the hotkey C. Now some of the hotkeys have alternative shift modifiers, which will invoke a developer's version of some of the hotkeys. For example, back on the regular context menu, remove with the lowercase x will always remove the entire widget, whereas with uppercase X it will remove only the particular widget which is being highlighted and embedded currently in the. So if I, for example, wanted to remove this delete widget, which is here to make as an appearance as an X to just make it look like a conventional window, by holding Shift X on the keyboard or pressing Shift X, it deletes just that delete widget, which is a message sending delete to the morph itself. Well, let's get the object back, the standard panel view, and then to see some of the, to create your own view, you can drag from the browser any message, and a message widget will be created automatically. It also has its own menu, which is similar but certainly customized compared to the object widget menu. It also has a developer menu. By holding Shift right click, just as with the object widget, you can hold Shift right click or press T to get the tools menu and see various designer options for that. The default is to, when a message is only invoked by click, so we click on it and it invokes the message and it produces another Maui object which is embedded within this widget, the message widget. Now the only thing that can be embedded directly into an object widget is a message widget that it understands, or if I were to get a duplicate of this view, we can also embed itself, but maybe you would want to do it with a different set of messages. And thereby having a better formatted view by embedding the object in itself. And you can get rid of the, maybe this would be tools, layout, range left to right, something where you would lay out the user interface perhaps differently by embedding itself into itself with different messages laid out in a different direction. But that's the only thing you can embed into any object. Now a message widget can itself embed any object, which is the response of the message. So in this case we see that these are instances of floats because that's what those messages return. I'm going to press C to get the browser back, and I'm going to demonstrate a keyword message. So alpha is a message that will create a new color based on the argument of the alpha value. When I hover over the parameter, it says drag alpha value here or type a Smalltalk expression. Alpha value in the balloon, as you can see, corresponds to the argument name. So again, trying to make use of the code elements that are built into the code so that there is a closer and richer transition from user interface, from code to user interface and back. There's some connections there. And by only having two kinds of widgets, it ends up being a very simple user interface, but yet with quite a bit of functionality accessible within two gestures. The first gesture being a point, the second gesture being to press a button, whether it's any of these hotkeys for the luminance message or point in any of the hotkeys for the alpha message or the red or green or blue message. Each one of these is, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 operations available within 2 gestures. That's just for the regular context menu, excluding all of the other tools and options, hotkeys there, and so forth. Anyway, it's a high functional density. That's the point of that. Now, with keyword messages, there are 2 ways to invoke them. Now, they are invoked by default when they have enough arguments dropped into their what I call parameter holders. They hold the if this had more than 1 argument, then it would, and maybe we can find one, alpha mixed with. We'll do that. That'll be perfect. We'll do that next. So alpha, you can either, as it says, drag an alpha value here like this, and we get that color, or we can type one in, 0.5. And we get a slightly different color. And so this particular message wants a proportion which is between 0 and 1, and then a complex object as another part of the argument to the message. And that's one of the very nice things about Maui, is that you get these automatically. Anywhere the right kind of object exists in the environment, you can drag any view of it directly into this message. This is the word view. I just pressed W to get the word view. This is very useful, pressing W to get a word view, to drag without having to pick up a big view that may have several messages on it, or it may be a large view, but you can do it. You can pick this up and use this as the argument, and then that will be the argument, and then we'll mix it 0.8, and we get the answer in the hand. Now, why did this produce an answer in the hand where these embedded their message? Because the message widgets have settings. If you go to the Tools menu and look at their settings for each message, in this case the luminance message, we see that the result view, well, first let me say, here's the object which encapsulates how the message is invoked, and also where the result goes. It's not just how, but really how often and what input requires it. So there are 3 different kinds of strategies. There's a clicked invocation strategy, which is when the message is clicked. There is a mouse over, which is for when the mouse is over the message, it will, and then when you move out of the result, it will remove it to keep space very tidy and small. And then auto is a very common one, especially for simple accessors, because it's the most efficient and the most convenient. It just invokes automatically whenever the user interface is opened in the world initially. And that implies, of course, that you can save configurations of these panels. So like, and we'll go with that in a minute. We'll finish up on about message the widget first. But so the result view is the view that it will appear. The preview view is, and the produced view represent views that are based on whether you hover over the result, you can get a preview view. So like the produced view is word, which means you can tear off these other from the result without accidentally, picking up the whole object. And then you can set a repeat on the auto invoking message to keep so that it will stay updated. However, if this is set to false, it will still update when it receives a changed message from the domain. So that makes it very nice and efficient. Although a 1000 on a fast accessor probably won't hurt anything anyway. And it actually, if it produces the same result, it won't keep making new result morphs behind the scenes. So you're not creating a lot of garbage. So that's basically what we can do with an invocation strategy, which is on this, again, on the settings of every message can be customized. So again, that's on the tools menu, settings. And this one, because it's a, by default, because it's a keyword message, then by default it gets the panel as its result view, and its result holder target is the hand. So that's why when we did this one, it keeps giving us colors that way. Then finally, you can save views. So this is a user-created view, and if we want to save that, we go to the Tools menu again, because that's for designers, and we go to Manage Views. We can see that with the hotkey, we could just press S, and then that's very fast. Once you change it, you press S, and you're done. But this, for the first time, just to illustrate, this panel is, again, a different color, just like the other settings, because it is a Maui panel on a Maui morph, rather than what these Maui panels are on the domain itself. So when we use Maui to work with Maui widgets, and in this case we want to remember this view as. Now what is this message here? The balloon says it's the save prototype : at level. Well, why does it say remember view as? Because its label has been changed. On the context menu, this is even on the standard user menu, you can set the label, and it'll say at 1 put a value or another value. So we can change that label, and that's how that was done. So it wants to know the name of the view, and typically you want to use uppercase names for user views, and then the lowercase names will be private views that will be available on the tools menu. But the names that begin with a capital letter are user views, and they will appear on the main context menu. So let's just call this main. Now here it says drag a string here, or type a string. Before, over here it said type a Smalltalk expression. That's because with the tools menu, or with you can change the evaluator and have any number of, you don't want to make folks type a date constructor. So with the date evaluator, you can allow them to just type the date, and it will be parsed in as many ways as supported by the Squeak environment, which is quite a few. So we're going to remember this view as main for all kinds of color, and you can remember the view at any level, and it will be all of the subclasses, objects of those will be able to take that view, because since they inherit the messages, they will be able to understand them. So we do it at the highest level you can, so that as many subclasses as possible will be supported. So I press enter. It invokes the message automatically because all of the parameter holders were filled up, and as a post invoke action, it deletes the meta panel for saving it, so that the user doesn't have to do that. Now on the context menu, we have main, and it will show what it looks like so any of these can take that view. And additionally, the result of, if we edit his settings, then his result view can be the main view. And you can do it we'll put it in the world this time. And auto means for a keyword message as soon as it gets enough parameters. If you changed it to click, then you would have to click the message after you had put enough parameters into it. So now, by dragging other colors, alpha mix with, this is a color, it's showing a view that's slightly darker. That's what its view is. So if I get a word view, it's much easier, and it shows the other instances on the screen. And we'll alpha mix 0.4 with that, and now it gives the result in the world in the main view. So this is has basically scratched the surface of how Maui works, and how you create user interfaces and use it and its basic concepts. So I hope that this was helpful and that Maui can be a useful tool for others besides myself. I've created about 5 or 6 full-blown applications that are all inherently drag and drop and very easy to change, because you can make user interfaces without writing a single line of code. Now, it can't do the neatest user interfaces, but it can create user interfaces for sending messages and taking the results of those messages and using them as input to other messages. That's the main capability. So thank you very much for watching.